Okay, this is the second part of the same problem. This was problem one. We did the spending and efficiency variances first, and now we'll look at the fixed overhead. And what we have in the given information, we've got a budgeted fixed overhead rate, and there's the laser cutting time per array is 1.5 hours, and we have a budgeted fixed overhead cost. So they budgeted $1.8 million. For our actual results, we've got everything that was used, but we've got a full fixed overhead cost number. That was our actual fixed overhead cost. Okay, so we budgeted $1.8 million. Our actual cost for $1,832,200. So you can see we've got a variance right there, okay, of just over $32,000. So let's look at the format for this. And they use 4 columns for it because your final variance, the under-allocated fixed overhead, relates to the difference between the actual and the allocated. Okay, but you could take this one column and just combine it because the budgeted lump sum is equal to the flexible budget. Okay, it's the same number, so you could have one column in here for $1.8 million. But what I would do is work some problems for a while until I got really used to it, and then start making some changes. Okay, so here's our like we started out with our actual. Our actual was $1,832,200. That's our actual overhead. The budgeted lump sum fixed overhead was $1.8 million. So we have a spending variance of $32,200 unfavorable because we spent more than what was in the budget. And what's good about this is, what was I getting? God only knows. No, what's good about it that I wanted you to remember too is that everything on the left side is related to spending or price. All right, here we're actually looking at how much we really paid for things at spending, and on this side it's usage or quantity. Okay, so here we have spending variance, that would be the level 3, and over here would be production volume variance. And production volume variance is going to be the difference between the flexible budget, okay, equal to a budgeted lump sum, $1.8 million. So these are the same number. There's never going to be any variance between these two amounts, and the allocated budgeted quantity allowed for actual output. All right, so so we would have, what was allowed was $1.8 million times the actual units times the budgeted, the 240 is the budgeted fixed overhead rate. So that gives us $1,728,000, and what that does is this brings out exactly the difference between in overhead that's due to production volume. Okay, that's what that difference is, because our budget was based on 5,000 solar arrays. Here we've got 4,800. And the difference between these two is 72,000, and what we've allocated is less than what was in the budget. So this is an unfavorable variance, which we'll talk about later, because this is not an intuitive number. So we'll talk about it outside of this problem. Now to take it down, so if this is our level 1 variance, the underallocated fixed overhead, which is the difference between actual and allocated, okay, and here's our actual 1832.2, and our allocated was 1728, so we allocated less, but it's a 104,200 unfavorable variance, and that is the total fixed overhead variance. Okay, the difference between allocated and the actual. Okay, and then the next level in here, this would be a level, I think it's a level 2, is the flexible budget variance versus production volume. Now, production volume is exactly what it was up above. Okay, but the flexible budget variance is the difference, is actually the same as the spending variance, because these numbers are always going to be the same. Okay, so spend some time looking at this so that it makes sense to you, and that you can find the information in the problem and get it down here. And I think we just have to work a lot of problems in here and some exam questions so you can see what those are like. Okay.